Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I want to start out this video with a trigger warning. This is going to be a Scientology video, so if you find that material triggering in any way, I suggest you go ahead and click off this video and go on to some of my regularly scheduled beauty related material that you can find on other parts of my channel. And I'm going to go ahead and get into this video because I am several episodes behind. And I'm going to go ahead and apologize for that, guys, because I've been sick and I haven't gotten caught up. But I'm going to go ahead and shoot the first part of this, and then I'm going to go watch the other part of this and try to film the other part of this today. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get that done, but I'm going to try. So I'm going to film the first half of this. This is the Leah Remini Scientology, The Aftermath, Season 3, Episode 9. This is Buying a Town, Part 1. And we're talking about Clearwater, Florida. Okay, sorry guys, I'm getting a little distracted because I have a very large knot in the back of my hair for some reason. Anyway, so Clearwater, Florida is the mecca of Scientology. It's kind of like Jerusalem, it's kind of like Salt Lake City, it's just the mecca for Scientology. And so in this episode they go into why that became the mecca of Scientology and some of the history and background and things of that nature. And we're going to go into that and some of the dealings and double-handedness, because this is Scientology we're talking about, so of course there's going to be some dirtiness and double dealing and all of that. So anyway, let's get into it. So Scientologists go to Clearwater to receive like the upper levels of training. Like this is like where you go if you're like really duped in Scientology. So like if you're really like shelling out your bankroll, you're going to end up in Clearwater to get those like upper levels. So Scientology is buying the town, trying to make it like the example to the world of like a Scientology like euphoric kind of area. And so in this episode, they're going to be speaking to a few people about what's going on in Clearwater, what's happened to Clearwater, things of that nature. We're also going to be speaking about some of the background. So we're going to do like a jump back to 1974. L. Ron Hubbard attempted to come into the United States with the Apollo. And that was the ship that he was kind of circling around with, and that's where he was running Scientology from. But he had been thrown out of a lot of countries at that point, and things weren't looking so great for L. Ron Hubbard, and so he was trying to come to the United States when he found out that the FBI, the IRS, and other agencies were waiting on the docks for him. So he decided to start going island hopping in the Caribbean. During that time, he suffered a heart attack. He wasn't really receiving the best of care. So he started sending people like up and down the coast looking for a place that would be good for them to kind of set up shop. And so like he had specific things that needed to be met for them to set up shop. Like one, it had to have like an international airport. It needed to be cheap because it needed to be able to house like all of the people and things of that nature. And he had like a bucket list kind of thing. So that's how they came to be in Clearwater. Clearwater kind of like checked off his list of stuff that needed to be met for them to set up shop. So he bought the Fort Harrison, and adjacent from it was the Bank of Clearwater. Both were going out of business. So here comes L. Ron Hubbard. He buys up everything, and the people were like, oh, cool, you know, somebody's going to come in and fix up everything. Well, here's the thing. They lied about who they were. Go freaking figure that. They're not going to come in and say, hey, we're Scientologists, because by then they were already getting a bad rap. Sorry guys, my voice is still a little meh, so I'm going to be constantly kind of drinking through this. But they first said that they were the United Churches of Florida when they came in. And that was even proven by like some news articles from that time that were like showing that, hey, this United Churches of Florida is coming in and they're buying this and they're like fixing it up and all of that. But like slowly but surely it started kind of leaking out that, hey, this is not so. And they moved in with the intention of taking over the city. And at that time, Gabe Cazares was the mayor of Clearwater. He was the mayor of Clearwater from 1975 to 1978. And he began questioning the group because it came out that they were Scientology. One of the reasons he started questioning them, not only because it came out that they were Scientologists, but like one of the reasons why he started questioning them is like they bought the freaking hotel, right? And they're like in there fixing it up, and you know, everybody's not, you know, upset about that. They're kind of questioning them because they're like, why are you having armed guards on the roof of this hotel if you're a freaking church group? As anybody with a brain would be questioning. I mean, seriously, why does a church need armed guards? So that made them go, excuse me, who are you people and what are you doing? And Gabe Cazares publicly called out Scientology and continued to do so very adamantly for many, many years. And it led to a lot of problems for Gabe, which I'm going to get into that in here in a minute. It also led to, in 1980, 60 Minutes covering Scientology activities with Mayor Gabe Cazares, resistance in Clearwater being a focal point in that. This was the first major expose on Scientology by an American news organization. And Cazares was quoted in this, and like I paused it and like had the closed caption on so that I could get this word for word. But he said, L. Ron Hubbard has stated that Scientology has the money to buy cities and even countries, that destructive cult has to know that sparkling Clearwater is not for sale. So, I mean, these are the kinds of things that Gabe Cazares was saying to people at rallies and things, because he was very adamant that something needed to be done. So at least somebody was standing up to them and trying to get them to stop. So Clearwater was not always under the spell of Scientology and not always just taking it. So that's where you need to start your journey on this Clearwater path, is they were not always just laying down and taking it. So in 1977, the FBI raided Scientology offices in LA and in Washington, D.C., which I don't understand why we don't do it now, since we still have very big proof that there are illegal activities going on. And there's even more proof coming out every single day. That's the reason why I keep making these videos and I keep being outspoken. And several other people keep making videos and keep being outspoken. But anyway, I digress. They seized a lot of papers, and among those papers that were seized were documents describing the Fair Game campaign to destroy Gabe Cazares' career. So here we go with some quoted information. It's HCO policy letter dated 10/18 of 1967. It's signed L. Ron Hubbard. The fair game may be deprived of property or injured by any means by any Scientologist, may be tricked, sued, lied to, or destroyed. It's directly quoted from him. Now, from FBI seized material, this is called Project Taco List. It's a Scientology document dated 11/3 of 1976. It was a plan to dig up dirt to ruin his political career. This is talking about Gabe Cazares. Remove or restrain him as an opponent of Scientology. Another document dated 3/3 of 1976, labeled Project Speedy Gonzales. Major target: to ruin Mayor Gabriel Cazares' political career by spreading a scandal about his sex life broadly. Get someone who looks like a college student to go to the campus and get a St. Petersburg Junior College t-shirt to spread a rumor Mayor was sleeping with someone's mom. I'm just going to let that sink in for a minute. Now moving on, 3/23/1976, Operation Italian Fog. Intended to create documents to prove Gabe Cazares was a bigamist. Recruit a Mexican and see that documents are put into the proper files showing that the mayor was married to was married in Mexico about 25 years ago. So, okay, let's dig up dirt to ruin his political career. Let's get someone to claim that he's sleeping with someone's mom. Let's create fake documents trying to say that he was married 25 years ago in Mexico. What kind of freaking what kind of freaking religion does this bullshit? And we have another project. 7/12 of 1976, Project Keeler. Gabe Cazares was set up with a fake hit-and-run accident in Washington, D.C. while he was there attending a mayor's conference. The way this was set up, excuse me, was that he was in Washington, D.C. at a mayor's conference. Someone was supposed to run out and act as if he hit them with his car. I mean, really, this is what a religion is doing to people. Because he's speaking out against them. Because he sees what they're doing. And so he's speaking out against them. He sees them trying to destroy his town. And so he's speaking out against them. And they don't like it. So they want to destroy his career, his livelihood. So, Merrill Veneer. Now, Gabe Cazares is dealing with all this. So, he has a lawsuit. So, this Merrill Veneer subject comes up to Gabe Cazares while he's at the country club and goes, "Hey, I will help you with your lawsuit. No problem. I will take the case." And he screws it up. Like, completely jacks it up, like, way bad, okay? And settles it for, like, a small amount or whatever. Come to find out, like, this is how bad this is, right? Comes to find out later on, Scientology hired this dude from another state to come in to do this. Scientology had hired this guy in another state, said, "Come in, hey, approach him, take his lawsuit, fuck it up, and we'll pay you." And they did, and he did it, and this is what happened. They got what they wanted. So, here's another one. HCO letter policy from L. Ron Hubbard. This is dated 8/15 of 1960. The goal is to bring the government into a state of complete compliance with the goals of Scientology. And this is a HCO policy that they are putting into effect in Clearwater, which they have now put into total effect in Clearwater. Clearwater government is in total control by Scientology at this point. And at the bottom of that, control such agencies. And that is what they're doing in Clearwater at this time. So the FBI raids at the Scientology offices uncovered documents detailing the top secret operation known as Project Normandy. And it was the plan to take over Clearwater. Now, let that sink in. They had a Project Normandy, and it was the plan to take over Clearwater. And that is what they are doing at this point. It is the plan to take over Clearwater, and they are effectively doing that at this point. They have bought up a lot of land in Clearwater. And if you look at the map of Clearwater, modern day Clearwater, they have bought up a lot of land. Like, it started with 2 buildings that were adjacent to each other. And it has spread. And it continues to spread. It's like a freaking virus in Clearwater. Anyway, 12/5 of 1975, in effect, Operation Orders. There was a secret Project Goldmine and Project Normandy to fully investigate the Clearwater City and County area so we can distinguish our friends from our enemies and handle as needed to penetrate and handle in order to establish area control. That is what those 2 projects were. 1/3 of 1983, Playground Daily News. Scientology City, Clearwater becomes a cult headquarters. That was the headline of a news article in 1983. Okay, I was born in 1983, so that was 35 years ago. Well, now, since that was January 31st, that's 36 years ago. So 36 years ago, they already projected that it was going to be a cult headquarters. In 36 years, it hasn't changed. It's gotten worse. 12/1/1979. So we're going to keep bouncing kind of back and forwards a little bit. It may get a little confusing, but I'm going to try to distinguish between modern day and in the past. But 12/1/1979, Clearwater Sun. Scientologists made front page for dressing up like Nazis in protest and marching in front of City Hall. Okay, so they dressed up like Nazis. Let that sink in for a second. Freaking Nazis. They dressed up like Nazis. They were protesting City Hall because they were trying to say that Clearwater City Hall were being Nazis. But you're dressed like Nazis. So, I don't see the... Like, if you're trying to say City Hall is being Nazis, shouldn't you be dressed as Jews? But I digress. They're trying to say that City Hall was being the Nazis and they were being persecuted like a new Holocaust. But they jacked that whole little scenario up. But anyway, they made front page of the Clearwater Sun in December of 1979 with that protest. So, a Lieutenant Ray Edmonds of Clearwater Police Department decided, and he was the in the police department from 1968 to 1985, and he headed an investigation into Scientology. So, between Edmonds and Cazares, they were working together to look into Scientology, and they were trying to get Scientology out of Clearwater, or at least get a good leash onto Scientology. So Clearwater investigated Scientology for approximately 20 years. Like, they were really trying to get Scientology out of Clearwater. So Edmonds believed that Scientology was a criminal enterprise and also had gathered a lot of damning information against them. He even went as far as going to state law enforcement organizations, and even went to federal organizations telling them that it was like the mafia, he needed help. You know, his small town organization couldn't handle it. He needed help with this. someone please help them. He was taking information to them, come help us, and no one came to help them. Now, you would think with the FBI raiding Scientology and seeing what was going on, also, you know, having all of these other things going on, you had the journalists that had all those lawsuits filed against her and all of this other stuff that was going on in the same time frame. He could have gotten some help, but nobody came to help them. So, fast forward to 1982. Now, Caceres is already out of office at this point because Scientology got him the hell out of office. But 1982, the citizens petitioned Clearwater and got, there was also several civil lawsuits filed. So the mayor and city commission held a hearing to investigate Scientology's activities. They were just like, okay, we give, hearing. Here we go. So one of the first people to testify was L. Ron Hubbard's own son. His son's name is Ron DeWolf. And this is a direct quote from him again. Paused, closed captioning, direct quote. The fair game policy, he's had that as long as I've known him. Mayor LeChair, or LeChair, I don't know how to say his name, said fair game is attack the attacker, DeWolf. That's correct. LeChair. Sue and trick destroy. DeWolf. Must destroy the attacker. There's only one good defense, and that's to attack. So Paulette Cooper is the author that Scientology tried to destroy because she wrote an article against them. And they filed 15 lawsuits against this woman. It cost her hella money to defend herself against them. She's wrote a book about it. They went so far as to like break into her office and steal letterhead that had her fingerprints on it and threaten a bomb threat. Like, I mean, they tried to destroy this woman. And she still stood against Scientology. She even came in and testified about her experiences with Scientology and their fair game practices, and testified about how she had to defend herself through these lawsuits and how much money it cost her. It was like $60,000 and like all of this. Robert Dardino was a former Scientologist who testified that he even stated that there must be some type of smear on officials in Clearwater. It just hasn't been uncovered yet, but it's going on. He also testified that he believed Scientology and L. Ron Hubbard had induced him to do criminal activities. Scott Mayer, another former Scientologist, testified that Clearwater was being infiltrated by a psycho-political operatives who had been well trained. So, I mean, they had all of these people testifying to all of these different activities. And so Charles Letcher was the mayor of Clearwater from 1978 to 1983, and he was over that hearing, but nothing really came of it. And Scientology continued on. So in June 18th of 1983, the St. Petersburg Times wrote an article about an ordinance. Now, with the hearing, it kind of brought some more awareness about what was going on with Scientology. So Scientology had kind of cooled down a little bit, and it seemed like the citizens may have gained a little bit of control. Now, nothing major had came about it, but Scientology had kind of cooled its heels a little bit, so maybe things could have been a little bit different. But then the government kind of overstepped its bounds, and this is where they screwed up. So St. Petersburg Times wrote an article in reference to an ordinance that they had passed, and it said the ordinance would give the city government broader powers to deal with the Church of Scientology. So Scientology filed a lawsuit. They sued for discrimination, said the ordinance was passed, and the litigation stretched out over 11 years. So it stretched on into the 90s, and on December 8th in 1993, the Tampa Bay Times wrote an article saying that the court ruled in favor of Scientology. The court ruled in September that the city's rule, called the Charitable Solicitation Ordinance, was unconstitutional, and the city ended up having to pay Scientology's legal fees, which exceeded $600,000. So if they would have stopped with the hearings and kind of pressed Scientology that way, they may have been able to press them on out of the city, but then they went one step further. They did an ordinance, and when they did the ordinance, Scientology saw a way to file a lawsuit that they could bury the city with, and that's what they did. They buried the city with the lawsuit, and that's when the city just went, we give. We give, we give. And Clearwater has not stood up to Scientology since then. So today, Scientology owns property valued at more than $250 million in Clearwater. More than $250 million. A billion with a B. $billion. So 3/30 of 2017, so just 2 years ago, Tampa Bay Times wrote an article. Scientology leader David Miscavige ups offer for aquarium before Clearwater vote on land deal. So this is the latest throw for land in Clearwater. So here's the situation. The aquarium in Clearwater was up for sale. Clearwater was going to pay $4 million for the aquarium. It was kind of like a done deal. They were just doing the final votes for it. Here comes David Miscavige going, hey, I want that. It's right here next door to this. It's right across from our original building in Clearwater. I want that. So he ups it from $4 million to $14 million. That's the offer he gives. And the person selling it's kind of like, $14 million. But the CEO of the marine aquarium is a guy by the name of David Yates. David Yates was kind of like, look, I work with the city. I deal with the city a lot. You know, you got to think, Clearwater's right on the water. He deals with the city a lot. So he was telling the seller, I've already told the city we would do it for this. We need to stick with what we told the city. I work with the city all the time. Yada, 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 yada. So the sellers agreed to stick with the original selling price to the city. David Miscavige had told the city, y'all should let me buy it. If y'all let me buy it, then I'll renovate downtown. I'll make it so nice and so beautiful. I'll fix everything up. I'll paint everything. Everything will be beautiful and wonderful. It'll be great. Well, when David Miscavige didn't get what he wanted, two things happened. One, he shut down downtown Clearwater. Downtown Clearwater to this day is a ghost town. The only people you see in downtown Clearwater are Scientologists that are coming from Flag, going to other Scientology things. They're in the Scientology uniforms, and that's it. You don't see tourists, you don't see citizens, you don't see, there's not a restaurant open, all the businesses are closed, nothing is going on in downtown Clearwater. 2, he fair gamed the fuck out of David Yates. And we're going to get into that. So, the sale went through to the city for the original $4 million. So, here we go. Scientology got all pissed off. They got all in their feelings. Well, then Scientology started writing letters to the county in reference to David Yates. And they read as this: enormous compensation to David Yates. The Clearwater Marine Aquarium compensated its CEO more than any other CEO of a nonprofit aquarium. Every tax-paying citizen has the duty and responsibility to report the potential misuse of taxpayer funds, as the church has here done. So, are you pissy much? Let's talk about taxpayer funds for a second. Let's just delve into that for a second, because that was mentioned and I want to expand on that for a second. You, being a tax-exempt church, have a huge church building, the Flag building, gigantic building in Clearwater. You also have all of these other church buildings in Clearwater that you don't pay taxes on. If any of those buildings, including Flag, catch on fire, Clearwater's fire department has to come and put them out. Who pays for Clearwater's fire department? Oh yeah, that would be the taxpayers, which you are not one. So now, do you want to pay some taxes? Do you want to pay for that service that you're going to be using, since you want to be bitching about something else? I didn't think so. Okay, moving on. So, Scientology Scientology has a publication called Scientology 2000. In the Scientology 2000 publication, they published a sentence called Clearwater, known as the first Scientology city of the world. They are bound and determined to turn this entire city into their Scientology city. This is their plan. Where is anybody to stop this? I want to know. I really do. I want to know where they're going to stop this. So let's move on to the last part of this episode, and we're going to talk about what Scientology is doing to actual citizens who live in this town. So Betsy Stagg is one of the people that was on the show. She's a friend of Mike Render's. She was never a Scientologist. Never a Scientologist. She met Mike by chance off the blog. She let him get married in her rental house known as the Cedar House. And after the wedding, Peter Mansell and a female show up at her house in a gated community. And Peter Mansell is the Scientology Office of Special Affairs person. And he told her at her house, he said, let's see here, that he knew where she lived, obviously, since he's on her front porch, and that they were going to do all they could to harm and destroy her. They stated that they would inform all of Scientologists in Clearwater to destroy her. Now, that is a threat. That is a terroristic threat. That is a criminal offense. Now, she called the police. They never came to her house. They never came to her house. She told them what happened. She got an email response a few days later. So 11/18 of 2013, Clearwater Police Department email response to Stagg calling the police. I stressed to Miss Heller, who is their attorney, how the described act could be construed as antagonistic. He also states all the information was relayed to the parties through their attorney, whom he initiated contact with, that they did not invoke, and that it was bad for their public relations to say things like that. Why is the police department giving somebody public relations advice? And why are you contacting their attorney when they did not invoke an attorney? You should be talking to the offenders, and then when they invoke attorneys, then speak to the attorneys. Oh yeah, I forgot. It's because Scientology owns this town now, and y'all do whatever Scientology wants. My bad. I forgot how that works. Anyway, so after all of this, Steg's at her rental property and catches a Scientology doing damage to her hedges at her rental property. She calls the police. The police refuse to do anything about it. She gathers all the information, goes to the police department, and tells them, okay, if you're not going to do anything about it, then I'm just going to take this and I'm going to go to the prosecutor myself. Which they finally take the information to the prosecutor. It turns out to be a felony, and a felony warrant is issued, which the police department refuses to do anything about. So then she contacts the state police. The state police then contacts somebody else, who contacts somebody else, and they get somebody in the police department to finally go and take the warrant and serve the warrant. So a warrant was for an Arthur Kill. He did willfully and maliciously injure or damage real or personal property belonging to Betsy Steg. So when everything finally came out, dude was finally arrested. All of that. It was issued in the finally went to court, all that was done. Now she has a neighbor to her rental property who is constantly filing complaints on her with the city. And then there's an article in the Tampa Bay Times, 10/4/16. Illegal house rentals nets Clearwater attorney $46,000 in fines. She blames attention from Scientology. So, again, they're fair gaming the fuck out of her because she's friends with Mike Render. Again, bullshit reasonings for bullshit problems. Why? Because it's Scientology. Why? Because nobody's calling them out on it. Why? Because we don't know why. They get away with it, so they continue doing it. So, numerous Clearwater City officials, as well as the Clearwater Police Department and the Pinellas County Sheriff's officers, were invited to attend that episode. They all refused because they're either in the back pockets of Scientology or they didn't want the hassle. So that ended the first episode of the buying of the city. Now I have the second episode to watch, and then there's another episode, and I also know that there is further problems going on with Scientology blocking some episodes or causing problems with people that were going to be in episodes, and there are some delays. I also have some other news articles for my news articles on Scientology. So I have other stuff coming up for you guys. Just be on the watch for it. I'm going to go watch this next episode and start taking notes. Like I said, these episodes are an hour long, but because I take such extensive notes for these reviews for you guys, it usually takes me like 2 or 3 hours to watch them. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to watch it and then sit down and film it for you guys, but I'm going to try. Anyway, guys, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can leave them in the comment section down below. Also, my social media is going to be in the description box down below. Come find me. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. If you have any information, come find me. Give it to me. I want to know about it. Anyway, guys, it's great to be back on filming on this stuff, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye for now.